we're just going to wait for people to join. Right now, no one's on yet because it just hit 7 o'clock. But I expect, we got 5 in the chat. And I expect that a lot more are going to start rolling in. Tia, feel free to just share the first slide as people start coming in. And in the chat, while we wait a few minutes for everyone to join, because there are 113 people registered and 7 right now, usually it takes about 5 minutes for the majority to come in. Why don't you sharing your webinar jam screen, I believe, right now.
Well,
you could share the slides and turn screen share on. Okay, why don't you, while we're figuring out the technical difficulties, put your name, where you're from, and why you're here.
Yes, hello, everybody. Just give me one moment. I'm sorry about that. Let's share one.
Are you able to share? Perfect. Yep, you got it. Perfect.
Hello, everybody. As you come on, please just add your name, where you're from. My name is Dia, and I'm from New York originally, but I live in Florida now.
Yep, smart lady. Hi, Henry. Good to see you.
Hello.
Where's everybody? Come on. We got Dia from New York originally, now in Florida. We got Coach Brooke. Nice. Hi, Cindy. Oh, another Colorado. Sarah and Henry. You guys live right near each other. We got Deb from Hawaii, right? It's amazing.
California.
UK. I love it. I always love seeing the diversity in this room. Oregon, California, a lot of West Coasters here and mountain timers.
Oh, well, thank you.
We got Shannon from Ohio.
Exciting.
All right. So while you're introducing yourself again, we're just going to wait a couple more minutes for people to start coming in. We've got some New Yorkers in the house and ones that are native New Yorkers moved to the South. Ames from PNW, now in LA. Got Baltimore, Maryland. Hi, Molly.
Everybody.
All right. And got another one originally from New York City. Oh, Julie. Okay.
In Georgia.
In Georgia, yeah. Awesome. Portland, Oregon. All right. So if you are here because you saw this directly, put a 1. If you're here because someone sent you this link and said, hey, I think you should join, put 2 in the chat. I'm just curious. 1, if you got this sent directly from us or you saw it, or 2, if someone sent you this this workshop and you attended. Okay, cool.
Awesome.
All right. Dia, I think we can get started. Cool. Lots of 1s.
Awesome. All right, guys. So I'm just going to teeter in between. I'm going to go to my other screen so I can share, and Brooke's going to help me with comments because I can't really see them as much when I'm on this screen. But I just wanted to thank all of you first for taking the time to come out here today and to work on yourself and to learn a few strategies. I appreciate you for being here. I hope you guys can give yourself like a pat on the back. So I just want to take the time to say hi. My name's Dia Marie Tompkins. Well, now Demiri. I work for Coaching with Brooke for almost 2 years now. I really love it. And you guys all, for the most part, gave 1s. So I'm assuming you guys came here and stress. And so I just want to take the time now and say, if you stay until the very end, there is going to be a free gift. So please, we really, once again, appreciate your time. And we understand that, it takes time to plan, to come here. And so we just want to say thank you once again for coming. So today, we're going to learn about how to manage your emotions and your stress. And these both really relate to the limbic system. Okay, that's what I want to say first. Now, I'm not a judge where the areas that we're going to be learning about today. So the first thing I want to just say is that there are 3 types to ADHD. And if you're not aware of them, I'm just going to bring up a few pointers right now so that you can see that there's not always the same struggles. Some of us face different struggles throughout our day because we actually may have a different type of ADHD than somebody else. So the first is ADHD inattentive type. And these, some struggles you may face are maybe you're forgetful, maybe you lose focus, you're considered a daydreamer, or, you easily get bored. Then we have our hyperactive. You move around a lot, you talk excessively, and maybe you lack patience. And then ADHD combination type is where you actually have a mixture of both. So go ahead.
No. And I was just going to share that even if you are diagnosed with ADHD inattentive type and the person next to you isn't diagnosed with ADHD inattentive type, the two can look different because you can exhibit different symptoms from ADHD inattentive type. And Dia, why don't you share a little bit about why you're sharing the different types of ADHD here? Because I would guess that most of our viewers here have ADHD, probably know a decent amount of it. How does this relate to emotional control?
So I've found that in my years and time and experience that really having an awareness of your emotions, an awareness of being able to explain them, and just an awareness of where you are, how you feel, what's going on in your body, all of that plays a crucial part. Because the next slide, we're going to talk about executive functioning. And when we look at executive functioning, there's a variety. There's multiple areas that are affected. And you'll see some people have 2 or 3 areas that are a weakness and 2 or 3 areas that are a strength. And usually that connects back to the type of ADHD you have. You can kind of see some of those similarities in strengths and weaknesses. So I think it's really important just to bring an awareness so that maybe if you do know or if you didn't know, you could take the time just to kind of find out some more information about it. Okay, so I'm going to move on to executive functioning skills, which is really the heart of with my clients. And so I'm going to just take a moment here real quickly and talk about how Dr. Thomas Brown breaks them down into really 6 different areas. And so now he's taking a combination of a few different skills. So in the first area, he considers this activation. This is where you're focusing on organizing, prioritizing, and actually activating doing work. Then you can work, the next area is where you're focusing, sustaining, and shifting your attention, right? So this is your focus. Then we look at how you sustain effort and your processing speed. And then today's webinar is really focusing on the 4th area, which is managing frustration, which is really connected to your stress levels and stress tolerance, and modulating emotions or emotional control. And then I don't want to leave it out. So the 2 other areas here are memory. It's your working memory and recall. And then the last area is really self-regulation and monitoring of self and where you're at. So,
and all of the clusters of Thomas E. Brown's executive function chart come together to control the emotional regulation. So they all work in tandem together. And like you said, Dia, we're going to be focusing today specifically on emotion.
Yes, yes. So actually, that's exactly the next slide I was just going to read for you guys, and that's executive functioning skills. And why should you learn about the different skills and areas? And basically, these skills are the basis for planning, organizing, initiating, and following through with all tasks, assignments, and problems. And when you learn strategies to start work right away and manage your time and work through problems until you reach the goal, that's really going to make your life easier. So it's important to note that all executive functioning skills really work together. So for example, when you're planning, you also need to organize or have some type of time management skills. The same thing when you're working with working memory, you need to have some type of self-control over your emotions, and you need to be able to pay attention to what's being asked of you and what's being said so you can follow through. So really, all of these skills work together. They're not just one piece and that's it. Any questions so far? No? Okay, I'm going to continue on to the heart then of why you guys all came here. And the first part is emotional control. So what is emotional control? Emotional control is the ability to manage emotions in order to achieve a goal, complete tasks, and control and direct your behavior. Now, individuals may have trouble adapting efficiently to different situations. So they may have difficulty self-monitoring their behavior and their emotions. So what do I mean by that? A few examples. Somebody who might struggle to bounce back from a minor disappointment. So I came home and I really wanted to watch a certain show today, and I get home and I can't. It's already over. I missed it. You know, I could be upset, or I can say, hey, I'll watch it later. Hopefully I recorded it, or maybe I'll watch it tomorrow and I'll catch it later, right? Are you able to bounce back from minor disappointments, not huge ones? Maybe you have an unnecessary sad or mad at small disruptions in your day, and they just completely take you off your routine, and it just wasn't what you were expecting. Is getting overly emotional or fixated on things, or you feel like you have a very, very short fuse, right? And the last kind of example of struggle with emotional control is a struggle to take criticism. So this is where you may feel like you want to lash out, or when somebody's trying to just help you out, you take it defensively and you get really hurt and upset by it. So these would all be examples of struggling with emotional control. So far, do I have everybody? Is there any questions? You maybe feel some of these struggles throughout your day? Can you relate to them?
Me, definitely. And I would say on a scale from 1 to 10, my emotions are all over the place, depending on what happens before I feel emotional and what time of day it is too. Like with or without ADHD, I know sometimes it can be difficult to handle our emotions. Who here, like Dia said, struggles with emotional control? And it could be one time a day, it could be every other day, it could be multiple times a day. Awesome. Thank you for being honest. It really helps out the rest of the group to feel that they can connect to this activity and feel like they're not alone. Leon, I know you asked what executive dysfunction is, and we will get to questions at the end, but ADHD, people like to call it an executive dysfunction disorder. That's not the DSM-5 diagnosis, but it's when your executive functions are not working properly. That's executive dysfunction, and that's through ADHD in its truest form. Meredith shared that she has definitely struggled with taking criticism. Yes, yeah. Right? And it's affected a lot of friendships. Thank you for sharing that. I know that sometimes when we take in criticism, it's hard to hear. You feel like it's an attack on you, but sometimes the person trusts you so much that they want to share it with you because they see that you are so much better than what they're sharing. So I know in the last emotional regulation class that we did 2 weeks ago, we talked about that as well.
Yeah, and I have one more question, actually. It's going to lead me into the next slide. If you guys had to guess, how many emotions do you think you have? How many can you name? Real quick, if you had to name, like if you were in school, the teacher said, how many emotions do you have in a day? How many do you think you have? 5, 2, maybe 8?
In a day?
Or just in general, how many do you think you could name?
I'd say 20 in a day for me.
Well, I'm going to say, my first response, no. Limitless. See, well, at least you guys are acknowledging this. Leon, do you know most people would agree with you that we have 3 to 5 emotions most people will name and count, right? But there has been studies that we have anywhere from 55 to 87 core emotions. So just think about that for a second. Wow. We have anywhere from 55 to 87 core emotions. So this is where emotional control, and I don't always like to say emotional control, I really like to call it emotional regulation, right? And so this is going to kind of take me into the zones of regulation. It's the first visual I wanted to share with you guys. And this is a visual, it's a system that's taught, right? It's a cognitive behavioral approach. It's used to teach how to regulate your feelings, energy, and sensory needs in order to meet the demands of any situation that you're facing. So before you look at the questions asked, I just want you to take a second to look at the actual visual here. And when you're learning about your emotions, it's really important, like I said, to identify or at least understand what emotion you're feeling. And this visual, I think, is an amazing visual because it really helps you see that in one moment, you can have more than one emotion, but they can be related or connected. So, you know, feeling mad or angry and feeling terrified are both in this red zone here. Does everybody see the visual?
I love visuals. I'm such a visual person, color coding, everything too. So this is helpful.
Yeah, I know. If we looked at the colors, or if anybody here, I'm going to look to the chat real quick. What color do you think most people say is the right color, the good color?
The right color. Green.
Green. Now, I put it in quotations because there is no right or wrong emotion. There is no right or wrong color. So I just want you to acknowledge most people will tell you that you need to be green, but you don't need to be green. What's really important is understanding where you are so that way if you want to go back to green or a different color, you can get there, right? So I'm going to take a moment right now and just talk about the different colors and what they mean so that way system, or you can adapt it and make it your own. You don't have to use the same colors and words. So the first area is the blue zone, and that's really when your energy level is low, right? So you maybe need this time to rest, relax, reflect, and draw away from people. You don't want to be out doing things when you're feeling blue. And then when you're in the green level, what do you think? It's like ready to go. You're good to go. This is when you're ready for your activity. You're ready for your conversation. So this is really yellow. You're going to be a little bit more alert and your emotions are going to be a little bit more elevated. So this is where you're feeling the frustration kick in. Maybe you're driving and you hit a little bit of traffic and now you're getting a little tense there. You're not angry. You're not mad and yelling at people, but you're definitely not in the green anymore. So you're in this yellow where your energy and being here is really you're about to change. And yellow is really an indicator that you can go red or we can work our way back to green, right? And so then the red level is when you're extremely heightened and elevated. So this could be yelling, hitting, angry, but it could also be terrified, like you're extremely scared. So this is where you hear that fight or flight, right? Shut down response. And that could be that extreme red. So what I like to think when I'm trying to connect to my emotions is 3 simple questions if you want to write them down. What feeling is coming up? So can I identify it? What is my brain telling me about this feeling? So your brain will usually send something like, oh, you should feel shame, or, right? Or you need to calm down. So what is your brain trying to tell you? And then from there, it's what do I need or what can I do in this moment, right? To really help me meet that emotion. So it's really taking time to feel into the emotion and being aware and naming it. So I really like this visual because it helps me just put a color and it helps me identify, there's days that I have similar emotions, similar colors, but it may change. And so I see over here, I'm looking back at the chat. Shannon, we had a chart like this before for feelings. How did you like the chart? Oh, I just saw your comment. Sorry. Oh, well, I'll give her a moment to respond. But yeah, there's multiple charts like this. You can look up different visuals of faces and emotions so you can make that connection. Because if right now you feel like you can only name a few emotions throughout your day, you really want to take that time and to really connect with your emotions. And you don't want to control them, but to help you regulate them is to be aware of where you're at. So that is my first strategy.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if we can apply that right now. Yeah, Dia, you're cutting out a little bit. I thought it might be me, but Morgan, you're right. Right now you're okay, but while you were explaining it, you were cutting out a little bit. So in the meantime, while Dia looks at her internet, why doesn't everyone take a moment and just think about whatever feeling they can identify with right now? So for Shannon, I could only identify okay. So where do you think okay would be in the zones of regulations? I know you said you learned that's not an emotion, but where can you identify something similar to okay? It says feeling okay in the green zone. So what I would like all of you to do is identify whatever emotion you're feeling right now, or an emotion that you identified with today, what your brain was telling you or is telling you while feeling that, and what you need. Take a moment, try to run through this, and if you're feeling comfortable, share it in the chat.
I see Becca is blue.
You can totally feel multiple emotions at once.
Totally. Like I said, this is just a visual to help with some people when you feel like you can't connect.
Thea, you're cutting out.
You may 2 emotions at one time. Oh.
Okay, so you guys are feeling and sharing what zone you're in, but what is your brain telling you? And what do you need?
So like if we take a second, last one I see is Meredith. It's hard to sit still right now. So your brain is telling you that you should sit still? Is that what your brain is telling you?
And what is Meredith's emotion? She
just wrote,
yeah. Her brain is, Okay.
Yellow.
Gotcha.
Okay, so maybe, Meredith, you need to move, right? In a productive way. Yoga, a quick 5-10 minute brisk walk, right? Sometimes what your brain and body is telling you is actually what you need to do, but in a productive manner. So if you feel like you're fidgety, mostly tired, my brain is telling me to take a nap. I need to sleep throughout the night. Oh, yes, actually, and that's part of the other slides coming up. And sleep is super important. And sometimes taking a nap throughout the day is important too. If you've had a brisk morning, I mean, remember, in lots of places all over the world, they work real hard in the morning, they eat, they take a nap, they work hard in the afternoon. So, I mean, there are rhythms to the body. Everybody has different rhythms. Don't ever doubt it. But taking the
totally
time,
go for a siesta right now.
taking the time to actually figure out where you're at and sit there and just be aware is the first step, so you can start to make the changes, so that way you can feel like you're in control, right? That's where the emotional control piece comes in. It doesn't mean that you have control of your emotions. You just feel like you can regulate them or bring them back to a state of where you want to be. So this is more just about an awareness. How do you get the motivation to be productive with it? Oh, that's a whole other conversation. That's being productive. I'm really focused on emotions today, but are you asking me, how do you get motivated when your emotions are in the blue?
Correct. That's what he's asking.
Okay. So when your emotions are in the blue, I think it's most important first to be aware of why you're in the blue and maybe what you need to meet those needs. So maybe you need some rest. Maybe you need to get help on whatever it is that's taking over your mind, that's making you either worried, or if you're physically sick, then that's seeing a doctor. So there's other things there that need to be met that will help you then be productive afterwards, or get you to a state of at least not feeling as blue and green so you can be productive. So that's more of the focus of why I use this chart. Oh, okay. All right. So I'm going to move on to the next slide. Sorry. I hope you guys, like I said, you can look up zones of regulation if you really like it. I'm going to go view one more slide, though, one more suggestion with emotional control. And this I really think is of your day. So setting up your morning and having the morning set right is really huge. For me, that means waking up and drinking only water. I usually read something of interest that's an article or a book. It's not my phone. I take a few deep breaths. So this is really important. I inhale and exhale longer than I inhaled. And that's a real deep breath there, okay? So even 2 or 3 big deep breaths really help change the mind. Another thing some people talk about, I don't do anymore, but I used to all the time, and it was exercise. And it was 5 to 20 minutes of exercise in the morning to get my body going and really get all the energy out that I needed so that I could be focused for the day. And the last thing I'm going to say, you may have heard other people talk about this, and I really agree with them, and that's don't check your phone when you first wake up. And try not to be on your phone and social media, because the way you start your day with problem solving and the way your brain works really sets your tone for the day. And if you're looking towards the phone for answers and you're looking towards social media or anything, that's kind of programming your thoughts for the day of you need to go somewhere else. And I know that sounds very funny, but I really believe when you wake up the first 30 minutes, just try to be without your phone. Even if you use your phone for a timer to wake up, I do. I take off my timer, I put it to the side, and I brush my teeth, and I try to start my morning phoneless as possible. So I'd just like to take a moment. Is there anything that you guys do right now that you think really helps set the tone to your morning that you could share with anybody and everybody here? Did I lose you guys? Oh,
No.
today I went outside and I read. Oh, what book? Is it a good book? Educational?
It was actually, no, it was educational. I always do nonfiction for whatever reason. I guess I must be a coach, but it was a breath magazine and it was talking about breathing and going outside and all those things. And then I meditated. Coffee on your porch. Yes.
I hope
yes,
it's
Cindy,
nice
making the bed.
Oh, Cindy, I'm the same way.
I mean,
oh, sorry.
They literally have a book called Make Your Bed because it's the first thing you're doing for yourself in the day.
Oh, see, and I just love to jump into a made bed. Like I tried for a while to not make my bed. I was really like, oh, I'm not going to do it. You know, I hate that I'm the only one that makes the bed. I tried to stand by it, but I just love jumping in a made bed. So it makes me happy.
Oh yeah, there's nothing better.
Feeding my cats and giving them love. Oh, do they run in between your legs and you pet them? Yeah, honestly, cats, if you don't have a cat and you really want to help with your emotions, a dog, a cat, any pet, like my friends even have hedgehogs. I mean, I had a bearded dragon for a while, and even Charlie, he would like hang out on my shoulder. He was the coolest. I miss him. But yeah, I hate making the bed. It was good. I got at least one thing done. Yeah, see? And even that sometimes, starting your day saying, I have a check. I already have it done. Maybe you don't love it, so try not to throw as many pillows or, you know, just use a comforter and not the fitted.
Or you can literally, exactly, you can literally just throw your comforter over everything and that's making the bed. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. In our house, whoever makes the bed. The other person, oh, I like that.
Oh, I like that a lot, Morgan.
But then that would always end up being me making the bed. He makes the coffee. So I guess that works. I like that system. That's really good. Okay. I don't want to take up too much time, but I think these are all really great suggestions. Like I said, I believe it's really important to set your tone with the morning. And so for some people, that's waking up super early. So they have a whole schedule and plan. And if that's what you need to do, that's amazing. And there's definitely books and strategies that help with that. And for other people, it's waking up a half an hour so you can have the coffee on the porch and you can hang out with your cats before you have to leave for work. And just that few minutes sets the tone of you did something for yourself, just like you guys said, Cindy and all Ames. But you're exactly right. So I don't want to spend too much time on one area in strategy. So we're going to move now into stress tolerance so that we can cover everything today. And so what is stress tolerance? It's the ability to thrive in stressful situations and to cope with uncertainty, change, and performance demands. Someone with low stress tolerance could or would become emotionally stressed in crisis and only feel comfortable when they know their schedule or they're back into a safe feeling. They may have difficulty regulating and coping with discomfort in achieving tasks and goals. And so for here, stress tolerance, a lot of people connect this to feeling frustrated, right? You struggle to complete a task and you often feel overwhelmed, so you don't complete it. Or after making a mistake, you obsess over it for the whole day. It just runs through your mind of what you could have done different, what you should have done different.
And that's the ADHD rumination, right?
Yes. And it can also be feeling like I just can't do this, and then almost giving into that feeling. So stress tolerance really a lot of people see as like a frustration, and know that we all have different levels of frustration. We all have different levels of what we're willing to tolerate, and somebody next to you might tolerate a lot more than you. Do not feel guilty, ashamed, upset that you get easily frustrated and somebody else doesn't, because everybody's different. So here, stress tolerance, it's kind of like emotional control in that you really want to be able to know, right? Or at least identify. So I'm going to go quickly into the strategies here before I go into kind of my fun activity. So some stress tolerance strategies. Like we said with emotional control, recognize and name it. So put a name to the negative feeling to help decrease the activity in your amygdala and help activate the prefrontal cortex, which is kind of the connection to executive functioning, right? Maybe you need to take frequent breaks. I know as a teacher, there are some students who needed to take a break every 15, 20 minutes, more than 2 hours, because everybody's different. Identify your triggers is never fun, but it's being aware of what really pushes your buttons. And this one I'm going to say, if you struggle to figure out your triggers and you don't know them, you ask somebody who loves you, right? And you ask them, what is it that leaves me feeling irritated that you do, that you notice, and you could help me point out. You don't have to ask those questions, but you can if you're daring. 4 is giving yourself that recovery time. So this is kind of like I said before, if you're in that blue area and you're feeling a certain way, you need time to relax and recover. Relax and recovery is super important, and it's different for every event or activity, right? The stress you feel and completing a work task is not the same stress you feel when you're going through an emotional breakup or when you've lost somebody that you loved. So each of those are extremely different and have different recovery times. Then there's mindful practice, and that's learning to shift your attention, your attitude, your role or perspective. And there's a lot of different mindful practices. Zones of regulation was one of them. And then mind-body exercise. And there's a variety of mind-body exercises. There's yoga, meditation, breath work that you were kind of talking about before, Tai Chi, Qigong. All of these different areas are said to help you deal with stress. And I'm going to share with you one of my favorite. Actually, I see some comments. So I'm going to take a moment. It says, my stress is high if the task is immediate. If the task is a project, the overwhelm is high and the stress tolerance is low. Yes, and there's actually a whole quadrant square that actually explains to people how we kind of react to tasks based on whether they're due immediately, whether they're in the future, and how we respond to that. So there's actually a whole science to that, which is interesting. But I'm going to share you guys right now, actually, my favorite stress tolerance technique. It's called EFT. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. Has anybody here ever heard of EFT? Yes, no, I'll give you a moment. Okay, I'm going to just define it for you. So what it is, it's according to the EFT International. EFT is a practice. It's a practical self-help method that involves using the fingers to gently tap on body pressure points along the meridian lines of Chinese medicine. Okay, it is often referred to as EFT or tapping, right? So there's a brother and sister, they do tapping solution. Then there's people that just use the word tapping, they may say EFT. So the therapeutic effects of this technique are recognized all around the world. There's up to 300 studies using EFT for anxiety, fear, pain, stress, weight loss. There's a plethora of different things that people have used this for, and they've done studies and seen how it's made a difference, right? So I just want to remind you all that there is a gift if you continue to be patient and stay with me until the end. I thank you all for being here. I acknowledge that we're just about over a half an hour, so I want to thank you. And like I said, I want to share my favorite technique. And so I'm just going to explain to you right now, because to actually go through the whole process would take anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes. So when you have the time, please look up EFT. There's a variety of videos. Like I said, there's the tapping solution. They go into the steps. They share, there's Gabby Bernstein, Marie Forleo, all these different people, if you look them up, who have used EFT, and they actually share their process of what they say and how they use it. And like I said, so there's a variety. The first thing you want to do when using EFT is identify the problem or the issue, okay? And you want to work on only one at a time. So I'm going to give a personal example.
Would it be okay? Would it be okay if everyone did this with you too?
Yeah. I was going to give a personal example, but if you want to do it with me today, we can do it.
No, give a personal example, and all of us will do it at the same time.
And you can change up the words, but my personal example it's the interesting one. I went on an RV trip about a year ago. I fell out the RV and I broke my foot. And I still had to drive to Pennsylvania to get to my mom with a broken foot in an RV. And so I stopped right there and I was crying in the car and I said, okay, I'm going to use EFT. I'm using EFT for pain. And that was my focus. I'm using EFT and I'm focusing on my foot for pain. Okay. And so the first thing you do whenever you're using EFT is come up with a scale and give it a score. So at that moment, I felt a 7. I was crying. I was in pain. I didn't know how I was going to get through it. Actually, we'll switch it. I'll make it this morning. This morning, I was nervous about this whole webinar today, right? I really was. I woke up and I said, okay, I've done webinars. I've talked to people, but I'm nervous. So I gave it an intensity of like a 4, right? 4 or 5. I'm aware of it, but it's not going to stop my day because it's later on at night and I'm going to be okay. So I rate my intensity. I think of the issue.
Okay. Sorry to cut you off, Dia, but I just want to call the audience right now. If you guys can share one of your issues or problems that you would like to focus on using EFT.
Yeah.
In the chat. I'm going to put one of mine in here too. Take a moment and identify one of your issues or problems in the chat.
And it doesn't have, like I said, it doesn't have to be a huge problem. Mine was I felt a little stress about presenting today. And that's not bad. That's a good stress, but it was still stressful when I woke up. Cramps, I'm working, that's physical. Health issues, relationships. Okay.
Yeah.
So you want to focus on the relationship, right? You're thinking of the person and maybe what's coming up in the relationship. Maybe you're fighting or there's miscommunication, or maybe you want there to be more openness between the two of you, right? So what is it that's really in the relationship that's the issue?
Yeah. Who else feels like they waste a lot of time during the day? Molly, I'm sure there's a lot of people here that feel that way. Okay, yeah. So now that you guys have identified the issue problem, next rate the intensity.
Give it a number. So out of 0 to 10, 0 being, not at all, and 10 being the most extreme, where it's really affecting you and stopping you through your day. So in the communication, is that like a 7 right now? Maybe. Okay. Awesome. Well, not awesome, but okay. So now as we identify and we give it a number, right? And this is really important because when you're taking this time to think about what it is that's stressing you out or what it is that's your issue or a problem, this is really actually helping you with step 3, which is coming up with the phrase, right? So coming up with the phrase, and now this is where I think it's amazing that a lot of people use this differently, because you can look up how different people talk and say and use it, and it's a process. So you're going to see a variety of people talking. Some people focus on the negative for a while before they can transfer into the positive. And for other people, they can quickly make that change because they've used EFT. So if you look it up, I want you to just know that you may feel like you want to focus on the negative terms or wording negatively in the beginning more than other people, and that's okay, right? But the idea here is you start with acknowledging the issue and you say what it is, and then you're always going to end with accepting yourself despite of it. Okay? So I'm actually going to show you the points that you work through as you're saying this. And I mean, we have about time. I'm going to show one circuit.
Dia, would it be okay if everyone takes a second to set up a phrase?
Yeah.
First,
I just want to acknowledge for number 4. I don't have enough time to do the 2 or 3 cycles, so we're going to do 1 cycle through for you guys to see it, because I just want to honor your time, because it does take some time. So yes, take a moment right now and think about what it is that you're acknowledging that's the issue. So the communication in the relationship, right? So I'll state mine out for you. So this morning it was, all of this stress. I really feel overwhelmed about presenting in front of people that I don't know. All of this overwhelm comes from a feeling that I won't do good, right? All of these stressful feelings make me feel like I'm not going to succeed tonight, and that feeling is overwhelming. That feeling is making me stressed out. So I'm starting with an open, honest of what it is that I'm experiencing. That's my issue. And I'm tapping, or on the side of your fist is the first place. You kind of tap with your fingers. Some people like to hit. I like a karate chop. Some people like to just tap light and loosely, right? So you start, when you come up with your phrase, I'll give you a minute longer, you start by saying the phrase 3 times, karate chopping your hand. So really focusing, like I said, I just did, on all the frustration. I'll do the physical one too that I did when I fell out the van. So when I fell out the van, I did all of this physical pain, all of this pain in my foot. I feel like it is completely broken. I do not know how it is going to heal. I am nervous about my wedding in a few months, and I have a broken foot, and there's nothing I can do about it. It's already broken. It's already in pain. All of this pain can be really overwhelming, right? So I tapped for like 3 statements worth, or 3 sayings of what it is that's affecting me. And now here comes the magic. There are 9 points. So you work through tapping them for a few minutes. I'm going to show it to you, and then I'm going to say a statement. So 1 is above your eyes. 2 is next to your eyes. 3 is right below. 4 is above your lip. 5 is below your lip. 6 is your chest. 7 is the sides over here. And then 8 is the top of your head. And the 9th one was the karate chop that we started with. But you only do the karate chop in the beginning, and you do the whole cycles of the 8 points 2 or 3 times. So this is where it can be time consuming, but it really makes a difference. So I'm going to show you just 1 cycle for timing here, because I want to really appreciate your time, like I said. So I'm going to focus again on the stress from this morning. Okay. So I start with all of this stress that I'm feeling right now. I'm really nervous about presenting in front of a group, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do it, but I lovingly and I accept myself, right? All of the stress I'm feeling from the unpredictability is really okay to feel, and I accept that it's human, and I love myself anyway. And I tap on my head. So in essence, when you're really focusing and doing this, like I said, you would karate chop 3 times and then go through the cycle 3 times, like not just once. Like I said, for some people, the first cycle is all negative. The first cycle is I'm really stressed out and I'm really overwhelmed, and this is a very hard day. And you can do that. And then when you get to the second time, you go back to your forehead, tell yourself you love yourself. And watch when you start to tell yourself how much you love yourself and how much it's going to be okay. Those thoughts and those feelings really start to come to you. And after the 3rd time, you rate it. And I'm telling you, like when I fell and I broke my foot, it was a 7. I tapped probably 6 times in a row, but I got to Pennsylvania an hour later, ate dinner before we actually went to the hospital. And that whole time I wasn't crying anymore. I wasn't freaking out. I wasn't flipping out. I had completely changed my body, right? Today, this morning, I was stressed out and nervous about today and how this presentation would go. I tapped on it and I told myself, you know, we're all human. If you make a mistake, you make a mistake. If you pronounce a word wrong, you pronounce it wrong. We're all human. And that helped me just get to a better state to start my day. And like I said, these two are really connected when you look at your emotional control and your stress tolerance, because EFT is a great technique to also help with your emotions. But it's once you're aware and you can identify what emotion you're feeling and what you're going through, that you really can then use this EFT. So for me, a lot of my stressors are noise related when I'm out and about. Is there a stealth version for when you're in public? So here's something interesting. EFT is used in two ways, right? So some people will teach you using EFT daily can make a difference. So like I've had clients where I've done EFT towards coping with testing, and they've seen a noticeable difference the next time they had to deal with testing. So there's ways that you can use it daily to help. Then there's times like I explained when I broke my foot or when I fell, that's an emergency. That's a crisis mode. That's like you're using it in the moment. Like I have to use it right now and I'm going for it. But you could try to use it daily towards these stressors that are affecting you. Or like Brooke said, a fidget in your pocket, something that'll keep you a little bit distracted from the stress. I like it. And then, I'm sorry, I missed Ames. The stress of doing physical tasks before the higher priority task at my desktop. Yes, well, that and that type of stress, and this is where it kind of relates back to the beginning when I said executive functioning is the mixture of all your skills. And so this is where stress tolerance is really connected to time management and planning. So it's learning how to manage your time and plan and put those tasks in the correct order so that way you could feel less stressed. And that's a completely different, I guess, task or strategy, but it still helps with the stress aspect. And that's where I think it's really important when you're learning about yourself, just learning what executive functioning skills you're struggling with and which ones are your strengths are really helpful. And so today, I hope that taking the time, I want to go to the next slide for you, but taking the time to just learn about these different pieces, I really appreciate you guys for being here. And so this is our free gift. Like I said, it takes some time to learn and actually go through the process. So if you click on the link, I don't know, Brooke, can we put it in the chat? It might be easier for them.
Yep. I'm going to put it in the chat right now.
Awesome. Thank you. You can see me go through the steps of EFT and walk you through it and actually do a whole set with you together. So, like I said, I really love using EFT. I have found the benefits personally and with many of my clients for a plethora of reasons. And I would love for you to take some time to just go out and look, like I said, anxiety, stress, pain, all of those. There's a plethora of research out there in how to use it and what you can do. And so my last slide, I just want to ask, are there any questions about today and what we've done? Or you have any concerns, questions for me? I want to share with all of you actually for being here. There's another great acronym that goes with the emotional part, and it's a Dr. Mark Brackett, and he talks the word, it's called rules. And it's basically the same thing, recognizing, understanding, and labeling an emotion so you can express it and regulate it. So like I said, when working with emotions, when working with emotional control and stress tolerance, really taking that time daily to understand and recognize what emotion you're going through. So that way you can ask yourself, what is it that you need so you can get to either a less stressful state or a state that you feel more productive.
Okay, so thank you so much, Dia. We have about 5 minutes now. Why don't you, in the chat, if you have questions for Dia, I know there was a lot that she shared today. So thank you so much for all those free resources. Dia is one of our senior to amazing coaches. She works with students, she works with adolescents and young adults. And she is really under talking herself. She has a load of experience, has been in the special education school system for over 10 years. She also has a lot of EFT training, a lot of executive function training, and she's just made phenomenal strides with students in our Coaching with Brooke community. So thank you so much for all of your help with emotional regulation, executive function. I know you've made a difference on a lot of people's lives. So with these last few minutes, guys, this is your chance to ask Dia any questions you might have about emotional regulation, executive function. Take this time. And, I appreciate all of you who started, stayed. So we have the same amount of people who came and the same amount of people who are still on right now. So please feel free to use the chat to ask any questions.
And like I said at the beginning, and I just want to say it again, I really commemorate all of you for being here to just, hopefully you learned something, even 1 or 2 things that you can take away and try on your own, or just learn a little bit about, really will go a long way in your own journey.
I wonder how many people right now are watching your video, because no one's writing in the chat right now. So I guarantee you everyone's clicking on your video and trying to do their EFT.
That's okay. That's okay. And I'll add one last little bit out there for you. And this is just me personally, again, like Brooke says, in myself and my ways. This week, you all may feel it, that there is a full moon, right? And when there's full moons, almost everybody, we all feel emotions. We all feel stressors come up. It's what some people say we need to let go of, things that we're trying to control. So if there's something that keeps coming up in your face and you've seen it over the past couple of days, the full moon is Wednesday. So I'm going to just say there may be some heightened emotions. And that's why I thought this was a really great time to use this for everybody. This isn't an ADHD thing. This is everybody all over the world feels the full moon. Trust me, I was a teacher. I used to watch the whole class. They all feel it. So what did we see here? What should you do if you don't know what to do or need? If you're too overwhelmed by an emotion, try to calm yourself down. So what do you do when you're too overwhelmed? The first thing I'm going to say, and I think for everybody, when we're really overwhelmed, do not try to think yourself out of it, right? We tend to think we can think our way out. And usually that's the hardest thing to do. And that's the furthest thing from what's going to get you to what you want. So really, depending on what you're overwhelmed by, is it a physical overwhelm, like your body feels physically tense, and that's when you do those yoga. If you feel like emotionally drained and tensed and overwhelmed, then maybe it's learning to just slow down and set up boundaries. If it's a mental anxiety, like you feel like your mind is racing, then that's, again, taking that time to do meditation and yoga. So Marissa, when you said, what should I do if you don't know or you're overwhelmed, really take time to ask yourself, where do you feel the overwhelm? Is it physical, mental, emotional? And then you can start to address it. Because calming yourself down or telling yourself to calm down never works. I've tried that. Trust me, it does not work. I only get more upset. Think about it, even with your kids. You ever have your kid, you tell them, calm down, you don't need to act like that. And they turn around, they flip out even more. You can't tell anybody to calm down. It's always the reverse. I was just feeling so relieved. Here again, it's so much irritability. Oh, Morgan, so many people. There's so many people, and that realization of when I was younger, all that shame and guilt that I felt towards things that were characteristics and traits that were common. And it's just that awareness. And once again, pat on your back. You've made it this far without the strategies, but now hopefully you're learning them so that way you can get better, right? If someone like your parent drives you nuts, How can you do a quick maneuver from having a blow up? If your parents are driving you nuts, communication. That's really like if your parents are driving you crazy, you got to come up with like a sign. Guys, I need 5 minutes and we can have a deep, honest conversation. But right now, I'm just going to flip out. And sometimes that's hard, like for anybody to hear, but learning to set boundaries. Boundaries is really great and important. And learning how to take time to really respond to people in an accurate way. Oh, I love other people are answering and responding in here. Thank you so much. Right? Yeah. So taking that time to stop and really think before we talk. Thank you for oh, you're welcome for the zone. Sorry, I'm just reading through the comments and everything. Once again, I just want to thank all of you guys for being here. Do we have a website? Yes, right here. Coachingwithbrooke.com. Does it show up on the slide? I think I have.
It does.
I think I put all the information there. Deb, to answer your question. Yeah, it's hard when people tell you to calm down. I agree. And when they're telling you to calm down, they think they're coming from a good place. Remember, we all think we're coming from a good place. We're not trying to be, tell somebody what to do. Sometimes it's learning what you need to calm down. So like I said, it's that walk or physical yoga or movement or a few deep breaths. There's a whole bunch of breath work and learning how to take a few deep controlling breaths, square breathing. Like I said, once you start the door, there's so much to learn about different ways to help you stay calm. And like I said, thank you all for coming.
Is the square breathing the box breathing where you do 4 seconds in, hold it for 4 seconds, 4 seconds out?
Yeah.
4 times?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I love, there's an app, Calmer, and I think Breathe. And both of them, like they'll sometimes have a visual and have you hold it so you can count the breaths. And it's great for people who need visuals. I just like to do it myself because I know them. But there are apps where they show you like hold the breath and breathe out. And it's really nice for people who are learning what to do and how to do it.
Thank you so much, Dia.
Oh,
you really have such a toolbox of emotional regulation tools, for lack of better words. And I thank all of you for being here. We are also, just so you know, starting in September, doing a Healing with ADHD course through emotional regulation work. So if any of you want more information on that course, feel free to send me a direct email. For now in September, it's only for current clients. But then after we do that one group, then it will be open to clients who haven't been a part of Coaching with Brooke yet. So thank you, Dia, again. Thank you, all of you, for showing up at night. Someone in the UK right now, I believe it's 1 a.m. So thank you. Go to sleep, please. And all the rest of you, enjoy your evening, enjoy your afternoon, and thank you for sharing your time with us.
Thank you for being here.